She's a tech founder, inclusion leader, and Miss Black America. Please welcome Ryann Richardson.
I remember one year, I was on the football team. That's a thing. I did, yes. And I was the only girl in the league. Yes. I was the defensive back. And I loved hitting people. I was really good at it. Loved hitting people, but didn't so much like getting hit. Which is okay when you only play defense. Your job is to run after and tackle that guy. He gets hit, you get the glory. And so at one point in the season, my coach decided it was a good time to add me to the special teams roster. So I wasn't feeling it so much. So I started to maybe cheat my position a little bit, like I would come off the line sprinting. But before the pileup, I kind of slowed down so the play would end before I got there. My dad, being the coach that he was, saw what I was doing. He pulled me to the side after a play. He goes, "You aren't playing all out. Why?" And I confessed to him, and I said, "Dad, I think I'm scared of the hit." And my dad looked across the field. He looked at the boy that I had been lined up opposite of. And he said, "Is he bigger than you?" I was like, "No." "Is he stronger than you?" And the competitor in me is like, "Hell no." I was like, "No, probably not." "What about his pads, his helmet? Are they better than yours?" And I said, "No, Dad, they're all the same." "So what are you afraid of?" he asked. And he looked at me and he kind of crouched down. So we were eye level, kind of squatted. He put his hands out like this and touched my shoulder pads and kind of modeled the position I was supposed to be in on the field. And he said, "Your job is to take up that space. And if he doesn't want you there, you better make him move you, but don't just give it to him." And it was really sound football advice. But I didn't realize then just how important what my dad was saying to me would be in my life, and how it would very much result in this full circle moment for me at one of the most important junctures in my life later on. And this is how. When I was 25 years old, I landed the dream job. I had been offered one of those highly sought after but never accessible jobs at one of those big tech startups that everyone wanted a part of. I'm talking the kind of company that's name becomes a verb. That has the good snacks in the snack room. You know what I'm talking about? Like double fisting LaCroix all day. It was the kind of company that gets memorialized, immortalized in the lyrics of rap songs. This was a big deal, and I had made it. Or so I thought. Because it didn't take long for the cracks in the foundation to start to show themselves to me. It was the kind of culture in which rape jokes were made and laughed at, where colleagues would muse openly about how white privilege is definitely a hoax. It was where reports of harassment and discrimination made to HR would end up making the reporter be put on watch rather than the alleged perpetrator. It was the kind of place where questions about holding ourselves accountable to inclusion and diversity metrics would be shot down by the CEO publicly as, quote, a slippery slope. My dream job was a nightmare. And I convinced myself that to survive the trolling and the double standards and the microaggressions, all I had to do was make myself invisible. Put my head down, do the work, draw as little attention as possible, and that's how I would make it through. Just don't poke the beast, because ultimately, those who don't challenge the status quo don't provoke the ire of the powerful, right? So one night, after a particularly just soul-sucking kind of day at work, I was talking to my dad, and we were chatting on the phone, and I was complaining to him about how much I hated getting up to go to work every day, and how I felt so disempowered. And I said to him, Dad, I really don't want to kick up dust because I already know that I'm not really wanted there. And he said, well, you earned this job. And I said, yeah. He goes, and you're good at your job? I said, hell yeah. And then he said something that was all too familiar. My dad kind of took a deep breath, and he said, well, if they don't want you there, make them have to move you, but don't just give up. And all of a sudden, it all became so clear. It all made so much sense. 13 years later, I finally understood when we were standing on that field. My dad said it was my job to take up space, and he wasn't talking about a couple yards on this field. What my dad was sharing with me was that it was my job to take up space in any of these environments where I know I deserve to be there, regardless of what someone who's not more talented than me, not more intelligent than me, not more prepared than me, felt or wanted or thought. So for me, I now realize that my job is to take up space, and to do that, understanding that it is an act of defiance. We are conditioned to believe that we are unentitled to occupy too much space, right? To be a woman, we're taught, is to be small. And to be anything other than a white man means to be simply thankful for the privilege of being able to see behind previously closed doors, but never believe that we are entitled to ownership of any of that space behind the door. I'm kind of done with that. I'm done with that, and I hope that you guys are. And I don't mean to suggest that we all should start taking up space because, like, my dad said so. Like, I think I've done a good job describing him, but I realize y'all don't know him from a can of paint. But as I look around this room, I hope we are all reminded that every woman in here stands on the shoulders of another woman who did have the audacity to take up space. To take up space somewhere where she didn't belong. To take up space somewhere where she wasn't welcome. Where she wasn't culture fit. I'm talking about the women who said, if you don't want me here, you're gonna have to use all your might to move me, because I sure as hell won't be giving you a single solitary inch of this space that I deserve to occupy. These are women who sat at the front of the bus instead of the back of it because they knew it was right. Women who walked through every moms to pick up space in a classroom that they would integrate because they knew they deserved that education. Women who took up space picketing outside of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue or sitting in DC jail because they knew that women deserved the right to vote. We owe those women. All right. Thank you guys.